Welcome to Taiwanica. This is the podcast for people in Taiwan who don't just want to survive pressure, they want to become clearer, stronger, and more conscious in daily life. Here's your host, a man who has 10 brothers and sisters, Eric Matthews. There is one phrase that sounds harmless, but it may be quietly controlling your life. It is not dramatic. It is not loud. It does not sound negative. It actually sounds pretty reasonable. And that phrase is, yeah, but, or in Chinese, 可是, you hear an idea that could help you, and immediately your mind says something like, 可是我没时间. But I don't got the time. 可是我没办法. But, I just can't right now. 可是我的情况不一样哦. But my situation is different, 可是我老闆不會理解. But my boss, he just wouldn't understand. 可是我的家人不會同意. But my family, they just won't understand either. They won't agree with me. And every time you say it, you feel like you're being realistic. But many times, you're not being realistic. You are defending the old version of your life. Today, I want to show you something very simple, but very uncomfortable. Your butt, not the one on the back of your legs, is often where your limiting belief is hiding. In Chinese, we call this 限制信念, or in English, we call that a limiting belief. Or we could even take it even more directly as 自我设限, and that's a self-limiting belief. And by the end of this episode, I'll give you one question that can expose the belief hiding under your butt. Not so you can feel bad, so you can finally move. In the last few episodes, we talked about comparison, jealousy, envy, 内耗, and overthinking. We talked about how your mind can create suffering even when nothing outside has changed. We talked about how doubt can either become a prison or a doorway. Today, we go one level deeper, because after you notice the emotion, after you hear the advice, or even after you understand the pattern, there is one more trap. And you ignore the solution. Someone gives you an idea. You say, that sounds good, but, or, a podcast like this one gives you a tool. And you say, interesting, but, or someone that you respect, like a coach or a teacher, asks you to try something. And you say, maybe, but... And the difficult part is this. Your butt usually sounds intelligent. It sounds like wisdom. It sounds mature. But sometimes what you call mature or wisdom is just fear wearing a nice shirt. And this is where we are going to look at today. Taiwanica is not for people who just want to survive the pressures in Taiwan. This is for people who want to become clearer, stronger, and more conscious in daily life. People who are tired of saying, 我想改变,可是, or I want to change, but. People who are ready to ask, what if my next level is not blocked by life, but by the excuses I keep protecting? That may sting. Good. Sometimes clarity stings before it frees you. Let's make this real. Imagine you are exhausted from work and you're doing overtime again, maybe unpaid overtime, and you're feeling frustrated. You're feeling unseen. And you feel like you're giving more than you are receiving. Someone says, maybe you should talk to your boss. Immediately, your mind says, 可是他不会听. But he won't listen to me. Someone else says, maybe you should start looking for a better job. Your mind says, 可是现在工作不好找. Oh, maybe it's because I can't because jobs are hard to find right now. Someone else says, well, maybe you should learn a new skill 20 minutes every 20-minute time span daily. Your mind says, 可是我下班很累. Oh, well, when after I get off work, I'm pretty tired. And listen, some of that may be true. Your boss may not listen. The job market may be a pain in the ass. You may be tired after work. But there is the question most people never ask. Is this reason helping me move? Or is this reason helping me stay? That's so important. I'm going to say the question one more time. Is this reason helping me move? Or is this reason helping me stay? Because a reason can be true, and it'll always be true because your mind will always tell you you are right and still keep you stuck. A reason can be accurate and still become a cage. And a reason can explain your life without changing your life. This is how people lose years of productivity, of chances to make themselves a better person. And they become experts in explaining why they cannot change. But they never become skilled at testing what might help. In Taiwan, this pattern shows up everywhere. At work, it could be something like, 我不敢跟老板讲. Oh, I don't dare tell my boss. Why? Because you don't want to seem difficult. You don't want to lose harmony. You don't want people to think, 这个人很麻烦. Oh, this person's really annoying. So you say nothing. And then you complain to your friend online. You go back to work, to the same boss, the same good old overtime, and the same old pattern. And at home, you want to tell your parents something like, I need to make my own decisions. But then your mind says, 可是他们很会担心我. But they will really worried about me. Or 可是他们不会理解. But they won't understand. So you say nothing. Then the resentment builds. And in relationships, you want to say something that you really feel, but your mind says, 可是他们会生气. But they'll get angry at me. So you hide the truth. And then you wonder why the relationship feels distant. In personal growth, if you listen to a podcast and you feel inspired, you might think, yes, I need to do something. Then 5 minutes later, you realize that real life is coming back at you and you say something like, 可是最近太忙了，不行. But I've been too busy recently. I just can't. And just like that, the old life wins again. Da-da-da-da-da. Not with a dramatic failure, with just one small but. Here's the part most people miss. Yeah, but is not just a sentence. It is a protection system. It protects you from disappointment, from embarrassment, trying and failing. And it protects you from having to admit, well, maybe I do have more power than I thought. Because if you accept that an idea could work, then you have to test it. And if you test it, you might fail. And if you fail, your identity gets touched. Ooh. That is why the mind would rather dismiss the idea quickly. Because if you dismiss it, it feels safe. Or in Chinese, you might say something like 先否定比较安全. It feels safer just to reject it. But safe is not the same as free. Your butt keeps you safe, but it also keeps you small. Now, let me be very clear. I'm not saying you should accept every idea. That would be foolish. You should not blindly follow every book, every teacher, every coach, every trend, every method. But there's a difference between two words I really want to connect here. Discernment is one of them, and dismissal is the other. Discernment says something like this. Let me try this. Let me test this out. Dismissal says, this won't work for me. Discernment, in another way, says, well, what part of this is useful for me to use right now? Dismissal says something like, my situation is different, so why even try? So you can see there's a clear separation between these two. Discernment is open, where you're looking at things clearly and you're able to say, hey, I'm going to give this a try right now, and if it works out, great, and if it doesn't, well, I learned something new. Where a dismissal is closed. I'm just saying, that's not going to work for me. I can't. I'm not good enough. It's just not possible. So discernment is going to give us this sense where we're going to be able to investigate and look deeper at what we have available to us, where a dismissal protects the old identity, where it's just saying, the experiences I had up until now are the things that are still occurring in my life, so I'm going to just keep on having them occur again. And I'm going to be just saying, well, it happened once, so naturally, this is my life. And that's not growth. That's death. So if we want to look at this in a different angle for a quick moment, discernment is saying, I want to grow. I'm willing to give a chance of trying something, even if it's really small. Where dismissal saying, I'm just not even going to try, so death is the only thing that can occur, because these are the two aspects of the life. The law of the universe, life around us, they're doing this all the time. They're either living and growing or dying and becoming small. In Chinese, a useful phrase for this is something like 不要马上否定，先试试看. Okay, so don't reject it immediately. Let's try it first and see what happens. That does not mean believe in everything, right? It means test before you reject. That one shift can change your life. So, like for me, if I were to be in the shoes of doing this and I'm trying out something, like right now I'm learning French as a passive hobby. And, I speak a little bit of Chinese, and it's pretty bad. I'm sure you all have noticed that. But the thing that I noticed with French is that it's the same thing. It's I'm learning something brand new. I don't know how to really approach it. And I've had French people come up to me and try to speak French to me, and I just don't know how to do anything. But in those moments, I have those thoughts come up of saying, do I just tell them, oh, sorry, I don't speak French, even though I do speak a little French? Or do I try to use the very little French that I do know to allow it to grow in that moment, even if it's uncomfortable? So for all of you who are second language English speakers, I'm sure you can relate to that. And this is one of the reasons why I created Start Now, by the way, because a lot of people don't need more random motivation. They need a place to practice, a place to test ideas, to stop dismissing every tool before it gives it a chance to work. And inside Start Now, you get access to 500 personal development trainings, plus a full library of content that you can read, listen to, and watch. It's all about mindset, building your confidence, having more communication skills, getting higher in your emotional intelligence, and of course, personal growth. So if something in this episode is making you think, okay, I don't just want to understand my patterns, I actually want to work on them, you can go to startnow.iachievetoday.com/well18. Again, startnow.I as in ice cream, achievetoday.com/well, that's WELL18. Use it as your training space, not to collect more ideas, to practice the ones that can change how you live. So now let's go deeper into what we're talking about today. At the beginning, I told you I would give you one question that exposes what your butt is protecting. Here it is. When you say, yeah, but, ask yourself, what would I have to face if this actually could work? Let me say that again. What would I have to face if this actually could work? In Chinese, it might sound like this. 如果这真的有用. Hey guys, looks like this episode got a little too long for today, so we're going to be cutting it in half. We're going to do a 上下 version of this. So this is the first half. If you really enjoyed it, stay tuned for the second half. That'll be coming out in just a couple of days.